Hey Lashpreneurs, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to create a well-oiled machine of a business. A lot of times, running a business, especially if you have no idea what you're doing, which most of us in this industry don't, we kind of are business owners by accident, right? We come into this thing of like, okay, I have a skill set, and then I want to run my own business because that seems to be the way to make money, but now I've got to figure out all this stuff. So you have things like you've got to figure out customer service, right? Like how to get clients to book an appointment. Okay, marketing. Okay, so then once we market, we get clients that are okay. Like application. How do I get results? How do I get clients happy? How do I get clients to pay me? How do I then manage the money that comes in and like the bills and like where do I invest in all this stuff, right? It's a lot to learn, and it can take a long time to learn if you just have no support in doing that. So part of what I wanted to plant the seed for you today was to look at your business through the lens of processes. And this is not the first time we've talked about processes. I know we've talked about it before, but I really wanted to kind of give you some concrete steps to start to implement today in building out processes in your business. Now, what I want to also plant the seed of why this is so important and why it's essential for you to do starting now is because if at any point you want your business to start to flow and have things happening without you having to twist every little dial in the business to make it work, that well-oiled machine, whether you want to have some things that are automated or you want to actually end up delegating some things in the business by way of hiring a team or outsourcing things, you need to have a process in place, at least documented to some extent, so that you can then hand it off and train somebody else to do it. A lot of people want to, I find that one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to the first thing to outsource is a lot of people want to outsource social media. They like hire a social media manager or an agency or whatever, and they're like, just take over social media. Well, for the most part, when I see that happening, it's a very high investment into something that is not already producing results. A lot of people have this belief that they should be on social media, so they do it as far as like checking the box of social media, but it's not actually working to get clients in the door, and then they're paying somebody else now to continue that result of not really getting clients in the door. But hey, content is going out, posts are being made, and they've got their quote unquote time back, but it's not actually getting results in the business. So these processes really help for you as the business owner to figure out a way to make something work in your business. Hi, that's what you signed up for as a business owner, is to find a way that something can work, and then you can hire somebody to copy and paste what you're already doing that's producing results, or hire somebody to do it better than you, right? Because if you can do it to a certain result, why would we hire somebody to do it to a worse result? Doesn't make any sense. But we do want to hire or outsource or be able to get some time back when we have a process that works and it's just very time consuming on our end. So there's a couple of different processes that I think are probably one of the easier ones to start with, and that's kind of what I'll talk through. But as I teach you kind of the step-by-steps of creating a process, that's a process for teaching processes, ooh, very meta. I want you to also know that this can apply to other areas of your business and even your life. Okay, so first and foremost, since we're in January, this is a great time to get some good, healthy accounting and financial processes in place, so that when you do taxes next year for this current year that we're in, it'll make your life and your accountant's life a lot easier. Now, I want to share a story about how I did accounting the first year in my business. Literally like the shoebox method. I don't think it was a shoebox. I think it was an Amazon box, but like any receipt I had, I just never looked at it. It went in there. Sometimes I'd take like screenshots of the receipts thinking I'd be all organized digitally and like have them digital. QuickBooks has a thing where you can like upload receipts. I wasn't that advanced with it or that on top of it. It was literally a box of receipts that I didn't open until January of whatever year that was. I think it was probably 2016, 2017. And then I spent 4 full days, like 8-hour days at a coffee shop, opening up receipts, plugging it in, finding the transaction, matching the receipt so that I could then I actually even went through like a spreadsheet, and I created in a spreadsheet for each month, and what I had to like organize the receipts by month. And so then I like plugged it in. This was like before I was really using an accountant or QuickBooks. So this was all manual. So when I say I have overcomplicated the poop out of accounting practices and found much better ways to do it, trust me, like if you don't have a process for it, like I get it. My process probably took me longer than having no process at all. But my process was document in a spreadsheet each month all of the transactions so I could see what my monthly expenses were, to then go to my accountant and be like, here's everything, it's organized. This is why there's some benefit and value to having somebody like an accountant or a bookkeeper who can do a lot of this stuff for you, so that all your job is to look at the data and like make decisions as opposed to having to manually enter it. However, some of you may not be at the point where that makes sense financially for you to invest in that kind of support. However, we can have some really good practices. So the things for specifically with accounting that make my life a heck of a lot easier, where I'm not having these big 4-day long trying to get through accounting stuff, which, let's face it, most of us don't want to spend more than an hour doing it, if at all. So trying to do days and days and days worth of accounting stuff kind of makes us want to curl up and cry in a corner. So my recommendation is twice a month, go into your calendar, your personal phone calendar, and set a reminder, and then block it off on your booking schedule as well. Take 1 hour twice a month. So think about it like if you've ever worked a job where they did payroll, they ran payroll every other week, right? So you could have that cadence as well, but schedule it as an appointment in your calendar that this is when we're doing the financials. Right? So if you have a team and you're running payroll, you probably already have that cadence set that you have payroll running. Do your accounting at that same time, right? So we teach this in our mastermind. It's like every time you run payroll, you go through, you do allocations of where money's supposed to go. And we teach all this in the Lashpreneur Society too, of like, okay, you have this much money in the account. Here's where it goes to owner's pay, or here's where it goes to payroll, or here's where it's going towards operating expenses or taxes or whatever. But be intentional about the time that you set aside, either to learn how to do this, right? Otherwise, you're just going to keep putting it off, and then we end up with 4-day shoebox marathon event. But the cool thing is that once you get some sort of QuickBooks or accounting or bookkeeping software in place, the time it takes for you to go in and categorize things on a regular, consistent basis is minimal. So I can tell you this right now, that like when I got QuickBooks set up and I had an accountant kind of teach me where things needed to go so that I didn't have to keep asking them questions, my accounting maybe took me 15 minutes twice a month, right? Like I'd go in, most of you don't have that many variety of transactions happening. You probably have the same ones or from the same vendors every month. And so you can set up automations that do a lot of that for you. It's like every time I order from Lashpreneur, it automatically will categorize it as a supply cost. And so I'm going to just go in there and say, yep, that's correct. There may be one-off things like, sometimes our members will attend our retreat, so they'll have travel involved. So that wouldn't be like a regular monthly expense for them, but they can go in and go, okay, yep, that was the retreat, so travel. But if you do that on a regular, consistent basis, and twice a month works really well, just for you to be able to like pay yourself as well as, or run payroll if you have a team, but getting consistent with it, that way it never piles up and it only takes you like 15, maybe 20 minutes. Now it may take you longer when you're first starting, you're first figuring out where things go, but that is a process, right? So I block it out on my schedule twice a month that this is when I do my accounting and my financials. So then I spend the 15 minutes and I open up QuickBooks. Step 1, open up QuickBooks. Step 2, review transactions. Step 3, maybe make a list of the transactions. I don't know where they go to. Email my accountant and say, hey, where do these go? Step 4, run payroll or pay myself, transfer money in the bank account, pay off a credit card, pay the bill, whatever it is. Like finish up and then I'm done. So a process is really just a fancy way of like the steps to completing something, completing a project, completing a task, getting to a result. That way, at the end of the year, I have the result of having numbers. At the end of the month, I have my numbers. I know how much I spent each month. I know how much money came in. I know how much money went out. That way, you can actually make database decisions in your business at any given point. If you're waiting 3 to 6 months to look at what happened 3 to 6 months ago to then make decisions in your business, that is why you continue to lose money. So you are getting the result of your current process, which isn't staying on top of your financials. So if you want a different result, like being able to make decisions on, last month we had a down month, so I need to focus a little bit more on marketing this month, or I need to run a special or promotion because I can't keep going down and we lost money, well, then we should probably make those decisions a little closer to real time. And having a process will help you with that. And creating processes is actually where freedom comes from. And I will tell you that I am the first person who is way more creative than I am structured. Structure to me feels like nails on a chalkboard. A budget is just like, oh, it's so restrictive. I just want to be free, loosey-goosey, right? It's really hard when you run a business, especially if you're solo, to live in that state of just constant creative, artistic, like I don't want structure. I don't want to be held back. I don't want to deal with numbers, because you're going to run out of money. Yeah, that behavior will not help your business grow. And the beautiful thing is, and the thing that I've had to learn the hard way and I still continue to learn, is the more structure I have in place and the more processes I have in place with my business it actually allows me more freedom, right? So instead of me putting off accounting for, months and months and months on end, and then having it take days and days where I'm not really wanting to do it and I have to like drag myself to do it. If I do it 15, 30 minutes a month, that's much easier and that's much more freeing. And then I can actually make really good decisions in the business. So that's one example of how to have really good processes, especially when it comes with financials. Don't just wait until you quote unquote feel like facing financials. Most of y'all behaviorally will never feel that way. You'll be too afraid to look at the numbers. However, those numbers are what help you to know what decisions the business needs, right? And so if you can get in a good habit and a good practice of at least twice a month, I say twice a month is great, to go through and manage your financials. Maybe it's once a month for you if you're not super busy and you don't have a whole lot going on, or it's still a side hustle. And then those of you that have a team, every time you run payroll, that's a great time for you to go in and just review your financials. You can review your reports. We do a lot more trainings on really in-depth reports when you have a team, because you can make a lot better decisions looking at booking percentages and all that. So, but yeah, if you're already sitting down to do the financials, you might as well do it all, right? And get it done and be done with it and have actual data to make decisions. Same thing can be said for like your customer service. A lot of you want to like have your clients be able to reach you at any given moment, at any given day, at any given time, and you're open 24/7 like 7-Eleven. That's not why you signed up for business, my friend. It is not. You should not be available 24/7. You should not be at constant access. You shouldn't even see when a client messages you. Have your do not disturb on. I still have my do not disturb on, and I don't have clients that have my actual personal number anymore. It's such a good practice for me to know, like, nobody is going to interrupt me from my sleepy time. My 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. I have do not disturb turned on my phone, and anybody who wants to contact me during those hours can wait. So I think it's a really good practice and process for you to have boundaries around your phone and when you can actually respond to clients and customers by way of a process. So maybe your process is on, maybe I take we'll say an hour at the beginning of every day that I work to do administrative work, which may be customer emails, DMs, rescheduling appointments, checking email, that kind of thing. Maybe you don't need an hour, maybe you only need 30 minutes, but that could be your process. At the beginning of the day, I spend 30 minutes just focused on admin, and then I get ready for my day. Same thing can be said for a process for application. That's probably the thing that you guys probably already have nailed down. When a client comes in, what's the first thing you do? I don't know. For me, it was cleansing lashes. That was the first step of the process. Second was placing the iPads. Third was getting their lashes ready and the adhesive ready. And then fourth was starting the application. And then I even had an application process. Like I started on the right eye. I would go from the inner corner to the outer corner. Then I go over to the left eye, inner corner to outer corner, and have my little mapping. So I do like 5 sections and just keep going back and forth. It was a process. So when you start to think about that, it starts to take the brain power and the bandwidth away from the decisions and the results, right? The more streamlined and more consistent you can be with the process, the faster and more efficient you will get at those processes. Same thing when we teach our students inside of our hiring programs on like how to train their team members. You're not going to teach them everything they need to know in 2 days. You're not. I know classes like lash classes are 2-day things. That doesn't mean they're set up for success and know how to handle every style of lashes and know how to do it your way. It is a process. So for example, we teach them how to help a brand new person to lashing who's never lashed before, how to cut down on their time by way of drills, processes, how to get more efficient with it, how to get better at lashing, right? It takes repeating step-by steps to get consistent and better at it. So all of that to say, the best thing that you can do for yourself in your business is look at your business through the lens of processes. So many of you are kind of, if you've been in the industry and you've been doing this a long time, your processes are so natural to you or so second nature to you that you don't think about it. That's the beauty of creating processes in everything in your business, is that it just becomes second nature. To me, looking at data in my business and like opening up my spreadsheet where I keep the data and track the data, it makes so much sense to me because I've been doing it for years. Now, the first time I did it, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I had to hire somebody to teach me how to do it. But now it's like, oh, that's clearly what the business needs. That's why I teach other people how to run businesses, how to look at the database decision-making, how to look at what your profit margins are and know what needs to happen in the business in order for your profit to go, in order for your pay to increase, right? So all of that to say is that really looking at even something that's taking up a lot of time or bandwidth, or you just keep putting off, that's probably the first place to look at what process needs to be created. If you hate social media marketing, look at the process. If you think it takes too long, you're probably spending more time than you need to on that, right? What is the process? What is the step-by-step? Editing photos, it can be 5 steps, right? Get the photo, adjust the lighting, smooth out the skin, crop it, add a watermark, and then you're done. Right? It doesn't have to be a 17-hour process for you to get 3 photos that you then post that nobody responds to, right? So looking at your business through the lens of processes is how you're going to start getting freedom back, is how you're going to get that well-oiled machine of a business that things happen because there's a process in place that you're following. And if you follow that process enough times, it just becomes like clockwork, right? And the beautiful thing is that once you get those processes in place, that's when you can start to hire or outsource those processes so that you're no longer the one who's taking the time to do it, right? You've developed these processes that are getting your clients results. That would be a great time to then start to teach and train somebody else to do it so you can get your time back. And so when we look at something like hiring a team, you're hiring someone to do the service part of the business, right? Because that's a very, very time-consuming task for you as the business owner, right? You have all these other things you can do. And yes, you can look at a receptionist too and hire a receptionist, but that's not a revenue generator. That's somebody who is an expense, maybe gets you some of your time back so that you can still be in the treatment room and maybe take an extra client in a day, but they're not generating money. They're not generating sales. They're not generating profit per se. So the first thing to hire out would be somebody to do the services so you can get your time back so that you can then do the other things in the business that can be time consuming, develop processes for those, then hire out for those. So if you want to look at, and if you're curious about what it would be like to hire someone and have a process to train them through, be intentional and start to think through, what is my client experience? When my client walks in the door, what's the first thing I do? Start to write it down step by step. I do this, I say this, I go through the consultation here. I then offer for her to go to the bathroom. I then wash her lashes. Like, document that out and you have the beginnings of your training, right? Of your hiring, of your onboarding. Now, if you're wanting help with that, if you want to figure out, how do I hire a team? What are the processes involved with hiring somebody the right way, the profitable way, and all of this, the craziness that comes with hiring a team member? Do people even want to work as employees anymore? How do I start getting my time back? Am I going to deal with like entitled, crazy salon team members that are going to walk out? I'm going to be covering all of that in my free upcoming masterclass called Build a Team, Live Your Dream. They're happening at the end of the month. Registration opens on Wednesday, January 17th for these classes. We only have 3 classes. You can pick one. They're all going to be the same, so just pick one that works for the best time. But we're going to put the link down in the show notes, but registration doesn't open until Wednesday. So if you want to learn how to hire a team so that you can stop trading your time for money and start growing your business without growing your time in it, and learn the processes that we have used with dozens of students to get them to hiring their first or next profitable team member, this class is for you. It's a great way to start off 2024, totally free. You can register starting on Wednesday at thelashpreneur.com/buildateam. Until next time, have a good one.